Pussy bitch. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, John Tui.
And this is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. Let's get to it, motherfuckers.
Too pretty to get bit.
All right, no, we're back for another episode of Invasion of Potty Snatchers.
But are we alone?
No, we're not back alone. We brought another friend along to talk about some zombies with us. And if you listen to any other episodes about this zombie series, is that the hitch is the guest picked the movie. So we brought along, and who's the guest? It's Ben motherfucking Galley. Ben, tell the folks who you are, what you do, and what movie you chose for us to watch.
Hi, everyone. I am Ben Galley. I'm an author of dark and epic fantasy, originally from the UK, now living on the west coast of Canada. And I thought it would be great if we talked World War Z.
Awesome. The 2013 movie directed by Mark Foster, starring Brad Pitt. It's pretty much an adaptation of a ridiculously famous novel. Max Brooks sold like 2 million copies or something of World War Z. And like, if you got any history with the book, or was the movie your first kind of exposure to the franchise?
This is awful for an author, isn't it? But yeah, the film was the first interaction I had with it. And yeah,
you could have lied.
I could have lied. Yeah, I'm an honest guy.
I would have approached you. I would have
should have lied.
Should have lied. Yeah. Well, you can edit this so I can lie now.
Yeah. I got you. Get in post.
It was my first time actually watching it.
I remember what?
Yeah, World
War
Z.
Years, man.
It's been
like
9 years.
It was the whole thing. Brad Pitt was like, I want to make a zombie film that my kids can watch.
What?
And I went, yeah. I went like, dude, you can watch a zombie film that my balls can watch. And, but then I watched it, and actually, like, there is a lot of viciousness in it. They kind of went with this super zombie kind of role, where they're not just fast, but they're nigh on unkillable unless you completely destroy the brain. And even at that, they were burning them to make absolutely sure. So the level, the intensity in this film was phenomenal. I'm just going to say it. It was absolutely fantastic.
I think you're absolutely right.
And for a guy who's an author of like epic fantasy or an epic fiction, I think this was an epic fiction. The scale was absolutely phenomenal. The intensity was really, really high. The danger was ever present. And unless you were literally in the air in a helicopter over international waters, it was basically the only time that somebody wasn't completely under attack. And in fact, even that's not true, because
they took a helicopter down.
So even that, I just realized as I'm talking, the plane scene, even that's not true. So even even the one little point, the one little caveat I made, I just realized instantly actually wasn't true. So it was super, super intense film. Is this something that speaks to you because of Ben Galley, the author, or is this just something you like the film anyway?
Both. I mean, as an author, I really like to watch kind of film adaptations and read the book, or vice versa. And just because I like the idea of bringing fiction to the screen. And also, I've just been a massive cinephile since I was a kid. I mean, I grew up with a huge library of VHSs that my dad was into. He's a massive film buff as well. And my mom and I just we always just wander down to Blockbuster twice a week, and that was kind of like what we did. We just see what new films are out and devour things we haven't seen in a while. And so I'm always watching films all the time. And then so zombie films are also kind of something that really speak to me. I wouldn't say I'm a doomsday prepper. I don't have cupboards full of canned food. Well, I've only got one, but I like to.
I don't have cupboards full of canned food. Sorry, I don't have many cupboards full of canned food. That's basically what you just did.
That's it.
I have one cupboard. I don't have too many cupboards.
No. And I got two zombie killers right here. I mean, I've got like one.
That's okay. Awesome. It even sang.
He's straight up just. Okay, 2 machetes, and the second one looks like if a machete was a medieval weapon.
That's it. There's the Spartan sword, the compass. But it's something that I don't know. I like the idea of as fiction, as also kind of like imagining it. Well, not imagining. I don't like imagining it, but it's something that the apocalypse genre or the not disaster film, but that similar kind of world-ending events have been discussed in umpteenth amounts of films. But I kind of grew up with those. Things like Armageddon. the core, that sort of stuff.
Deep Impact,
geological Deep Impact. There we go. Yeah, geological and just events like that. It's also the zombie film always had a place in my heart because it's just complete destruction and complete removal of humanity, and it's scary. Being bitten by something and then turned into it is that kind of almost like eldritch horror, that kind of something that's deep in the depths of our minds. I think from the time it's just worried about being bitten by snakes and spiders.
Worse than death, isn't it? The worse than death.
Worse than death. Yeah,
it's becoming like you. I don't know if you're a father, but Vinny is. I can imagine it. Vinny became the thing that became a danger to his daughter. That's much worse than being killed instead of his daughter. If he got killed in front of his daughter in this scenario, he become the thing that's a danger. That's so terrifying on so many levels. And you remember the first guy that gets bit with, like, not the first guy to get, but like, and they had the kids song, and it's like counted to 12 or whatever, and it's blah blah blah. I can't remember. I can't hear the song in my head, but it took 12 seconds between bite and
it was like a train station or some one stop or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and he's just watching in the street. Yeah, it's from Glasgow, that section, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it's just that the guy just turns, and then and I remember, like, this is what I mean, they're kind of super zombies, which I'm not always a big fan of, because they were like beating their head off the windshield. I thought, well, they're just going to die. I mean, you're eventually going to take your own head. You're not going to last long if you have no sense of self-preservation.
Exactly.
If you just jump off a building, or if you just run through glass, you cut a femoral artery and you'll bleed out, or whatever the case may be. But they did seem to be fairly unstoppable. And this guy turned in 12 seconds. And I remember and I thought there was such a good plot telling device, because I thought, do you remember when Brad Pitt thinks he gets blood in the mouth, so he runs to the edge of a building and he starts counting to 12. And if he starts to feel anything, he'll just jump off the building rather than turn on his own daughters. And I thought that they had so many scenes like that I have to say I thought it was a good choice. Basically, it was a film that I should have watched up till now, and I didn't.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, the global aspect is something that I really liked it, and I know they dumbed it down.
It's apocalyptic. It's apocalyptic.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not just. I mean, the thing is, the World War Z. The 28 days later, zombie. It was, I think, as far as I know, the first time that someone made zombies able to like run at you incredibly fast, and that to me fucking terrified me, because zombies in the Shaun of the Dead or the Romero films, you can kind of push them away with a stick, and just like shut the door.
It's their relentlessness.
The numbers game. And it's the.
As in, I'll wait outside for 10 years. Like, don't worry. I was in. You'll start to go crazy. You'll start to go bored. But we'll wait here for 10 years, 20 years. We'll never stop. That's what zombies are. But this one had that aggressive type.
That's it. And then I think World War Z introduced the idea of them as a swarm or a mob or as a giant crowd, and what they can achieve when they're just like these mindless, almost like kind of insect swarms. And I think that's kind of the other terrifying part, is the sheer number of them. So it's got that frantic, or like the sort of fearful aspect of World War, I keep saying World War Z, 28 days later, but on a bigger scale, both on the zombies front, but also the fact, they go to this country, that country. It's, you see that nuclear explosion when they're over India. It's happening all over the world, and I think that's why it's nowhere safe, at least not for long. That bit Israel gets me as well, because I'm just like, not only is it horrifying to see them all go over the wall, but I'm just like, why would you be singing? You're happy to survive, but shut up. Come on,
we're the survivors. Like, don't get me wrong, my sister and her 3-year-old daughter were ripped apart in front of me, but I'm happy to be here, and I am alone. It was. But even when they all start falling and they kind of survive it, you realize that. But also, you're after kind of triggering something to me when you kind of said I was insect like. It was like, and obviously they were operating on a system almost like not hyper intelligent, but on a system that insects do. Like, you get up on my back, a hive mind where there was just driven, and that's why they didn't go for disease hosts and stuff. And that's, well, it's not like high intelligence, but like it also is that they're reacting in the best way to implement destruction while they themselves surviving and multiplying. Like it was a terrifying take on the zombie classic, although I felt more like an action film.
Absolutely. I mean, I know they tried to strip out had to strip out a few of because there's the extended cut as well, which I didn't see for years after I see the theatrical cut. And then, there's like extra bits, which it's, extra gore as well as the actual horror, but they do kind of add a bit more of, just an essence into it. And I kind of like it, but it's just, I mean, I'm happy with gore. I like gore. It could have been more gory here and there, but
It could have been more gory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was trying to go mainstream, I think, wasn't it? They're going that mainstream appeal. Whereas, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, a blockbuster movie, you know, that kind of thing. Like, and there was a big issues with this movie because, like, the last 40 minutes had to be completely reshot. Because the ending was too bleak or something. We saw a completely different ending where Jerry and what was her name? Seeger, the Israeli lady, and they went to like Russia and seemingly they fought.
The Red Square scene, yeah.
Well, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it seemed like
sorry, I just watched the film for the first time yesterday, and the ending was the ending that he gets sick, and it was actually, and now that you say it felt like it was shoehorned in because he just comes back sick, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, the vaccine or whatever has been implemented through, and I thought, well, okay, you got there quite quick. Like, how did they make Brad Pitt not sick anymore? So yeah,
they injected Brad Pitt straight away. Ruth Negga did when he came out.
No, well, I didn't see that either.
Yeah,
when Brad Pitt walks out, it just jumps to the end. I didn't see Ruth Negga injecting him.
Yeah, no, Brad Pitt walks through. There's a whole mob of zombies.
Yeah, he drinks a Pepsi and he kicks the machine. Yeah, and they all go because
I think it's
Pepsi.
grape flavor or something. not to you know.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, he's called me out, and he's right. I've never watched the film, and if I did, I would just watch
like a 30-minute like catch up fucking video on YouTube or some shit.
No, I watched this film and I enjoyed this film more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, no.
Even the whole. Did you remember when he's in Jerusalem? They had the idea, and I thought it was a good storytelling of the 10th man.
Yeah, which does exist in Israel. It's just not called the 10th man.
Which is so. And they were saying like we didn't think, and then we didn't think. So obviously, if 9 people agree, we need a 10th man who absolutely prepares for the thing that we 100% think is going to happen.
Yeah. And
that was so, when I never, you know, when something's so truly new to you, that was just such a truly new idea to me. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a twist on ideas I've heard. It's not like seeing a color I've never seen in my life before. I'm not trying to overstay it, but I remember just thinking that is like, how did you know? How were you ahead of it? And the guy, I thought it was going to be like that Israel had some secret information that they didn't release to the world or something like that. But it was a case of because it was my job based on the little information we have to act like it was exactly the doomsday scenario.
Yeah, I love it.
That was such a fucking cool idea.
It is so true, and I think it is, from what I know, it is based on something that does exist in Israel. But yeah, it's just, I think, like Max Brooks came up with a different name, or the film came up with a different name. But yeah, in terms of that, I mean, the book has got so much more darkness in, and you kind of see it in World War Z to a point. There's, you know, allusions are made to, is it North Korea or South Korea? I think it's North Korea, putting out everyone's teeth overnight so they can bite people, and it's literally a throwaway sentence when they're like with that army battalion in South Korea. And you know, also in the book there's like Israel knows first, there's, you know, mass cullings. South Africa uses citizens as human bait to draw the undead. So there's all these like incredibly desperate global level things that happen where people are just treated like, I don't know, a meat, you know, byproduct or whatever, just so some can survive. And so you kind of allude to that in the film, but I think there's a lot more darkness, which is, you know, the delicious stuff, and the bit that's truly horror in the book, which the kind of the longer uncut version kind of touches a bit more on. But even the PG-13 still, you know, with the illusions, it just it gives you that like, I want to see more of it, but I don't. Sort of thing.
Oh man, in the book, the whole North Korea thing, like they talk about how North Korea went dark and they went underground and stuff, that there could be 4 million or 40 something, or 4 million or 40 million or something. I don't know what the population of North Korea is, but like they're saying that there could be millions and millions of zombies.
He knows that it has a 4 in it.
Yeah,
he feels confident about that.
I've only read the book once. Yeah, I know. But they're saying there's like millions. There could be millions of zombies underground, and I just like I would love if Max Brooks had just even taken that part of the story and did a spin-off where you have a tactical team coming in to see the leftovers of North Korea, and like they have to go into the subterranean tunnels and
be terrifying, right?
Yeah, it'd be incredible, man.
I also I think we might be able to all agree, I'm not sure, but I love when a good zombie film is that if you are just an average Joe and you wake up in the middle of the end of the world, is that you don't always get all of the information. And all of this film had so many people who were just caught by surprise.
Yeah.
And they were just completely taken out because it's not a case of. And now in this film, to be fair, it had Brad Pitt, who was whatever it was he was. I don't know what you would
a
call
UN
it.
person.
UN investigator. But the same, they got caught in the middle of it, and that's what I love in the zombie things. And that's why when I was watching this, I was like, yeah, I should have watched this before, because despite the fact that I wish it had more violence, which is such a pedestrian thing to actually wish. But I always like when zombies attack, they destroy. That's what I love about zombies.
Well, that's it as well, because that I think is what makes zombie films not only quite pervasive, and like there's huge amounts of them, and they keep being either reinvented or just redone, or it's we're never going to run out of zombie films, I feel.
No.
And yeah, I think it's because it's we have that inherent fear of disease and infection, and at the same time they're also a monster horror. They are, especially in World War Z, 28 Days and Weeks Later, they're a physical monster that you have to fight off, that is seeking to rip you apart and like
Predator.
bite you. Exactly, Predator. And it's just this kind of like unification of those two aspects of disease and horror, and that kind of aspect, and becoming one of them and ceasing to be yourself, as well as the monster horror. And also then you've got this apocalyptic aspect, because I mean, like, zombies exist. Game of Thrones has zombies in, right? Technically. But with that, I mean, it's always the breakdown of society that happens so quickly. Especially in World War Z, you're going from like one dude speeding past on a bike, that police guy taking off his wing mirror in the opening scene, to like an Indian nuclear detonation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, or even in that first bit, like within 10 minutes, they are like, I think they're supposed to be in Philadelphia, even though it's Glasgow.
Oh, really?
And it's filmed literally, I think it's Glasgow. It's definitely Scotland. It's Glasgow, Edinburgh. I'm pretty sure it's Glasgow. And that's that scene. Yeah, they imported all the kind of like there are taxis that are yellow in Philadelphia as well, but the American cars and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's you can see people filming it outside, not in the film, but you can see videos of people filming that outside their windows and in those flats. But even in that scene, it just devolves from that one police officer, one guy being bitten. Obviously, there's that exponential spread that happens within 12 seconds, like a disease. It's just it's horrifying. And then all of Philadelphia is burning, for that night immediately. So it's that riot, and then you see what kind of humans are capable of as well, pushing, shoving, trampling anyone just to save themselves. I don't know, I just feel like zombie films just bring out or touch on so many multiple fears, both modern and kind of archaic, stuck in our head. And I think all of that together just
it's zombies. It's like the Black Plague come to life or something, isn't it? You know what I mean? The Black Death,
which is a short story I did once, but
Oh man, there's actually an okay-ish, I won't say it's a really good comic book series, but it's one called Pestilence, and it's kind of about the Black Death and zombies and stuff. It's just that.
Whoa, is that what Pestilence is about?
Yeah. It could have been better though, I think, because for the subject matter, I think they kind of left too much on the table, if you know that kind of way.
Actually, it's funny, that ties into World War Z as well, because I thought that there was there's two scenes I'm going to talk about real quick. One was when he gets the helicopter and he gets it off the top of the building, and some of the zombies jump off the building, but one guy jumped where he was nowhere lined up with the helicopter. He ran up there to jump off the building. There had nothing to do with the helicopter. Or even it's just like the helicopter's like here and it takes off, and it's just it's like 15-20 yards that way, and he jumps off the building. And I was going, what's your deal? But the other thing I thought was brilliant, when Brad Pitt is on the plane, it's before they go to Jerusalem, it's wherever they go before that, and he's talking to this guy, and he has this great monologue. He's like, nature is the greatest serial killer. And then he like instantly falls and shoots himself.
Shoots himself through, then he falls on his gun. So because he's like a scientist. The scientist guy. Such a throwaway.
I had to watch that scene 4 times because I was watching it. I was watching it and it was fine. And I was like, oh, he's fallen, he's hurt, and then like Brad Pitt's like going, oh, he's dead. And is he dead? Why is he dead?
No, he said he fell.
I had to go back. And then it was like,
it's an interesting one, isn't it?
And
so like it is throwaway, but like it does it.
Why give him the spiel? They just had that monologue. Nature is the greatest serial killer of all time.
What was the point?
That's all he was. He had to deliver that line and give Jerry some information, right? And essentially pass that on.
Exactly. Hard. Give him,
So he's an information character.
Exactly, but he's got quite the ignoble end of. I mean,
but he falls. Mr.
But I mean,
Beans
shit like that
himself
happens,
out
right?
existed for me. Like,
Do you think it was a case of like they were like, oh, the pointlessness of death or some bullshit? That's the only thing I can see of it.
I can kind of glean that from it, whereby
of
it's kind
course,
of, you know,
yeah,
shit
and
like
that's being
accidents
generous.
happen
It
in
was just
war
weird to me.
Yeah.
Of course, you know what? You're right. You know, like everyone, I always when you talk about like strange deaths, and there's a famous guy in Austria, but like maybe 400 years ago, and he had like the longest beard in the world, but like somebody screamed fire, and he went to run away, and he stepped on his beard and fell and broke his own neck.
Oh
kind
my
of
God.
gone like, yeah, and it's kind of gone like, okay, maybe like sometimes like, yeah, you're important and you're wise or you considered like an elder, but like dumb shit happens.
still human.
Yeah, still human. But this guy just falling and shooting himself in the head. I remember just thinking, like, again, I had to, because even when he fell, it didn't sound like a gunshot to me or something. I just ended up having to watch it a bunch of times going, it doesn't look like he got shot in the head. I don't know. I was like, I need to make sure about this.
For me, it was weird though, because that scene in South Korea is one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, but it's sandwiched in between two of the dumbest parts of the entire movie. Like
Which
the guy just falling on his own gun, and later on, where Brad Pitt's wife Maria Lenyos, when she rings him, when they're like cycling through, and like pretty much everybody dies.
Oh yeah.
That is so stupid. Like, why?
It's like your phone. Why would your phone go off? It is quite a dummy move, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why wouldn't you put it on silent? The guy literally says, "Let's not make a sound." He's a special forces dude talking to a UN investigator. I'm sure he would take his words and go, "Oh, put my phone on silent, turn my phone off." You know, battery life's limited. Why does he constantly have it on in the first place? Anyway, like, you know what I mean? You're like, I'll ring you at 6. You know what I mean? I'll ring you at 6 every day. If you don't hear from me, call for help. Keep your phone off then until then. Like, that scene just really, really annoyed me because the part in between in South Korea is probably one of the best parts in the whole movie, where you start getting some real information about, you get the North Korea thing, and you get like how the outbreak occurred on the base, and like you get the scene then with the doctor and how to set them on fire and stuff like that. Like, so in the middle was amazing, and I would have loved to see a bit more of is it James Badge Dale or something, I think his name is.
Yeah, the guy from the Pacific.
Yeah, I would have liked to see a bit more of his character. You know, I think he would have been a good character. Maybe he can keep alive and bring on to another scene and bring on to another place, you know, because he's such a strong actor. But like, that scene in the middle was awesome, but was sandwiched between two of the dumbest moments of the movie for me, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of strange because they had like some big characters. Was like Ed Harris was supposed to be in it as well, and Bryan Cranston was supposed to be in it, but they had to do something.
It sounds like it was chopped to shit, because I feel like when you're talking about South Korea, you're talking Ed Harris, who by the way, like, if he slept with my fiance, I'd be like, "What do you need for breakfast, sir?" Why do you always
go there? Why do you always have to go there?
I'm hoping that when you find out I've been sleeping with Rain this entire time, kind of like,
oh, she tells me daily. Man.
It's got a whimsical premise.
She tells me.
But I do feel like you're talking about a different movie. In fact, like, again, I sat down and I watched this movie, and I didn't take notes, but I was like, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about this. And now I feel like South Korea, guys, I promise you, I watched.
Yeah, they weren't
movie.
in it. Yeah, no. They were supposed to be in it, although, you know. And then they had what's his face from Lost?
Matthew Fox.
That's it, Matthew Fox as like the parajumper or paratrooper or something like that. And I'm like, I know he in the book has a relationship or like an affair with Brad Pitt's character's wife. That's also, you know, spoilers. Yeah, I get it, you know, that sort of thing happens. But then, like, he's still a kind of a reasonably big actor just to play literally a 5-second part. Yeah. And like, yeah, it's kind of like, oh, you see these little cameos, and you're like, what?
Well, what happened with Matthew Fox's character is that, like, the last 40 minutes were recut. He was supposed to have an entire relationship with Brad Pitt's wife that played out seemingly in the last 40 minutes. Jerry was supposed to have never met at home. That him and Seeger went and started fighting a war in Russia against the zombies. Seemingly it was a cut to like several years later. He's still fighting the war. Matthew Fox has been having a relationship with his wife because he's been blackmailing her, you know, for safety and stuff like that. And then when all that original like 40 minutes at the end came up to the studio execs, they were like, "Oh no, it's way too bleak," and they had to cut it out and reshoot the whole thing at massive cost. Brad Pitt didn't like it, neither did the studio execs. They said it was too bleak, and that's why Matthew Fox was literally only in it for like 5 minutes.
I never knew that.
Yeah, his entire role was cut over.
Yeah, because I know it had a massive budget. There's some problems with budget.
200 million.
The highest grossing zombie film of all time now, which I found out. I didn't realize that. Yeah,
it's like 450 million, I think.
People like it, but there's obviously just this point where they don't want it to cross, where it's just the violence, just the gore and the violence.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this film had the epicness beyond any zombie film that I can certainly think of just off the top of my head. I mean, like them being able to climb each other like insects, that they get over a wall of Jerusalem. Like, I've never seen that. I can't think of anything that I can equate to that. I've seen 28 weeks, 28 days, and I you know, I've seen fast zombies, slow zombies, I've seen fairly unkillable zombies. But I've never seen anything like these things that can fall from 60-meter walls after climbing up each. You know, there was
and get up.
Yeah, so the actual scope of it was so huge, but the actual violence of it, actually, I thought it was going to be so soft. That's why I didn't watch it. When I sit down to watch horror movies, I want to watch horror movies.
Yeah.
But there was a lot. There was the soldier who blew himself up. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like, I remember the girl who gets her hand bit and Brad Pitt just chops it off. Like, I mean, that was real shit. Like, I remember just thinking, this is actually a real zombie movie. But I felt like they were like strategically careful to not cross a line where you could say that it's this kind of horror movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So more violence than 28 weeks later, ultimately, because but not as visceral. So not as, you know, so as, again, like, but as a cinephile, I like to make sure that it's 18 plus.
Or for a zombie movie.
No, it was a joke about
I nothing. I was getting nothing from you know there. I was getting nothing.
You know, cinephile 18 plus.
Just, you know,
I see.
I'm wasted. The writers, I'm wasted on it.
Yes, it's the audience's fault. But one thing I loved about this though is that, like, it's something you talked about earlier, Ben, is the escalation of events. Like, you know what I mean? And along with the escalation was the investigation. And like Brad Pitt's investigation of the events and how he was trying to find patient zero. Like, another movie that I really, really enjoy, and it's a really bleak movie, is Contagion. And I just love that whole thing where people are kind of like, there's a massive event and you're backtracking through everything else and you're trying to figure out the cause of the event, and you're kind of going back over, you know, like you're kind of tracing someone's steps. In this case, they're tracing a virus or whatever, you know. And one of my favorite parts with the movie, like with the scope and scale and stuff, is that we got to see the part in South Korea and Israel and all these different things. But like, do you like that in movies where you see someone kind of backtracking and they're finding out information through like flashbacks or people filling stuff in from events that they've experienced?
Yeah, I love a good investigation. I mean, like, I find you know, it's a lot of kind of mystery within my books, especially as well. You know, there's always something that needs to be figured out, or something needs to be found or hunted down, or, you know, who killed who, that sort of thing. And I think I find that like a really satisfying just kind of device in terms of story planning and plotting things out, because, you know, everyone loves a mystery, and, you know, the actual act of investigation is fun. I mean, that's why I really enjoyed the new Batman film, for example, mainly because it's, you know, no spoilers, but it's not world level. Yeah, it's not world level, you know, Dark Knight Rises or even Batman versus Superman. Like, I talk about Batfleck, that's an entirely another podcast. But in terms of that, you know, it's not world level epic, you know, gods and mother boxes and cyborgs and all that sort of stuff. It's just this dude in a cape with a sick ass car hunting down a serial killer, basically. It's great, it's fantastic. So I think, I really love a film with investigation into, or, you know, something that really drives the plot forward. Not just, I mean, survival is great, survival itself is terrifying, and so I like films like you know, The Road, for example. You know, that's kind of it's grim, it's bleak, it's just got kind of like no plot apart from just keep moving. Or even Book of Eli as well, it's just he has to keep moving. And so I think, the added investigation of it really kind of keeps the plot of World War Z going for it, and enables him to meet new people. I mean, like, runs into Doctor Who at the end in Peter Capaldi, which I found this out earlier, just doing a bit of research for this. I found out that he was listed as WHO, as in World Health Organization, Doctor, in the credits, because they knew he was going to be Doctor Who. They had insider information, like some of the peeps who were like kind of producing it knew that it was going to come out, and then it was announced 2 months after the film's launch by the BBC. So they kind of like, they put an Easter egg into World War Z just for Doctor Who fans, which is quite cool. But yeah.
What did you think of the most unrealistic thing of everyone taking a vaccine?
Yeah. Because isn't it in the
Weren't you
book,
just
it's,
watching it kind of going like, people used
Yeah.
to do that. Take vaccines, you know?
I know, yeah, because in the book it's a placebo, isn't it? Called phalanx, and it's not actually a proper vaccine. That it's like
Haven't read the
developed by
book, so
US.
I actually
Yeah.
don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would it be a
it's kind of
placebo though?
interesting.
I thought the whole thing was healthy host, bad host. Oh,
No.
sorry, healthy host, good host, sick host, bad host.
It was a company that were trying to pretty much react to the outbreak, and they thought they'd come up with a cure, but it actually was very ineffectual, and ended up being pretty much a non-starter. But they kept propagating the lie that it was the cure, and it kept more and more people were taking it, and then the outbreak kept worsening and worsening and stuff like that. The book's awesome because it's an oral history of during the war and post-war, and it talks about some of the most insanely ambitious battles. Like I think it's the Battle of Yonkers, where like the swarms and the hordes that Max Brooks wrote about is like 1 million or 2 people like in the zombies, and then they're like they've bottlenecked them and then have this like battle station set up, and it's pretty much like explosions and rockets and stuff, and they're trying to shorten out the horde before it approaches the front lines. Like, and there's the escape of the movie or the book, sorry, it is the best example of slow moving zombies, and how you can actually use their numbers as a real weapon, and how you can describe it as a real terrifying experience, and just the kind of anticipation of them, because you know they're on the horizon, they're coming closer, and the way he builds the scenes, and then the way he kind of like fleshes out these battle scenes, and like it's fucking incredible. And like I think the movie does a really good job as well with the fast zombies, and how it's so frenetic, and how it's like a wave. Like it looks really far away, and it's all of a sudden it crashes all over you, and you're soaking wet, you know, that kind of thing. And that's kind of what it is with the zombies in this, where it's like it's kind of almost like, oh, they're really far away, and then because they're so fast, they're just like on top of you, and then it's just 100 miles an hour until you run through the end of that scene. And like it's very different than the book, but both of them do it, I think, very effectively, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
I'm sorry, I talk so much. I thought I give everybody else a chance.
No, it's like something shiny.
But I did. I thought when I was watching this film, I thought the scene where he actually kind of injected himself and became an impure host, I thought was an interesting take on it. And I remember there was a line in it where he said, and I did like this line actually, where he said it was just like a rock in a river. And they were exactly right, because that kid, the old guy, I didn't get it. I actually, to be honest with you, my brain jumped to that it's a blood type, or that it's you know, just it's a pheromone, something like that. I didn't know. You know, your brain's jumping. I think they were fatal. And I thought that was such a dark terminal. Thank you. I thought there was such a dark take, because there was that kid, and when he's just like he's got nowhere to go, and he was bald and stuff like that, and I just thought, like, so what, like, you know, the same type of, perhaps he was, you know, he was a cancer patient, leukemia or something like that, something awful, and he ducks and he puts his hands over his head, because he's just like, you're just fucked. It's almost just taking the fetal position. Like, what else are you going to do? And but they actually moved around him like a rock in a river. And I remember when he used that line, I remember thinking that was good storytelling, because it was almost exactly true. And it wasn't a metaphor that I had thought of when I was watching it, but when it was introduced to me later, I looked back at it and went, actually, it's an interesting way of describing it. And I always think that something like that is kind of great storytelling, because it's making you rewatch something in your own head that you've already watched with the dialogue. And I think that's very fucking clever when it does that. Again, like it's funny to hear you guys talk about the ending, because I always felt like up to the point where Brad Pitt gets, I didn't realize that when Brad Pitt is messing there and the guy goes, if he takes anything from the left tray or whatever it was, he's fucked. He's done. Like, you know, it's not, this isn't the common cold. This isn't even SARS. This is like, you're fucked, dude. You're fucked. But I remember when he was walking out and he stopped to get a Coke, because of course he did. But I remember thinking, like, grape. There we go, grape. But I remember thinking, like, this is cool. And he's walking by, and eventually they're all running. And again, he's like the rock in the river. He's just walking, and they are running around him like he does not exist. One of them bumps into him. Like, one of them literally runs into his shoulder, and he just keeps on walking. And then It was the end of the film. Like then they had like, oh, the rollout has been blah blah blah. Now we have like, and I was going, really? I remember feeling like I'd watched step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10 of the film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember just thinking that like it was most of the film. Don't get me wrong, absolutely, that made sense to me. But I felt like there was a 9. I felt like there was a 9. I felt like there was a time where they got him out stable because I didn't know what he took. Like they stabilize him, that they get him, and then they're like, you know, they work forward with a vaccine. And I remember just thinking that they got there too quick. How did they manage to get the rollout on so quick? And I remember just thinking that the end was rushed. But I remember thinking that it was ultimately a clever film, like a smarter film than I could make. It's not one of those things where you're kind of like an armchair director in your head. I remember thinking it's a well-made film, but it was far from a perfect film, but it was a well-made film. And it was an original kind of concept on the zombie take. So I have to say I respect it. But do you think do you guys think that maybe they softened it up at the ends a little bit too much?
Oh no, they did, like 100%. Like,
but do you both agree? Because you both seem to have knowledge of the book and the alternate ending. Again, I it's all completely new information to me.
I could always go more if something is good, because, you know, I don't mind long films. I don't mind extended cuts. I mean, Lord of the Rings only exist in extended cuts as far as I'm concerned.
Too right.
Testify.
So,
because I was kind of when I went to the book, I was kind of intrigued by, you know, the elements that you don't see, obviously the global aspects that we talked about, but the fact that like at the end all the zombies are on this ocean floor. You know, it was like loads of them just stuck around and just falling into the sea. You know, they don't drown and they don't die, so they're just chilling on the floor of the ocean, or on mountain peaks and up where that they freeze so they don't decompose. And I'm just like, that's genius. So I'd like to have kind of seen a bit more of that. You know, them rounding it up and rebuilding civilization. I didn't need maybe much, but just a bit more of that character development. And you know, I've been guilty of kind of rushing endings and things like that. And you know, there are plenty of films that do it, especially horror films, because they're sticking that landing at the end is like seems to be the thing that horror films struggle against the most.
We talk about a lot here.
Vinny's even said that that's so symptomatic of something I say. It's like a rut I'm in, and it's like, you know, triple volt, absolutely over it, and it's pure Simone Biles, it's her at her absolute peak, and she breaks her leg on the landing. Exactly. You know, and it's so frustrating.
Every single horror film I've seen recently has been like that. I mean, I've been trying to find some good ones, but even Hereditary, you know, fantastic, incredibly unsettling, horrible film, and yet the ending, I'm like, why you didn't set any of this up? Why? And I think what was he might fall into that, but less so maybe it's saved by the action film sort of roundup thing, because like
in terms of entertainment, it's hard to say. In terms of entertainment, it's hard to say that this was not a good film. But I do remember, and it just makes sense to me now, as in the thing I was going to critique was that the ending was just like, and everything, it just kind of works out from this point. He's in Wales and he's fine, and Outer World is fine. Don't worry about it. Hey, what are you still doing here? Get a beer.
100%. I think it's, I mean, I was gonna say like the Independence Day ending, where you know they crash it, they have one kind of witty bit of banter, and you just have this like scene of all these other people bringing down all these other ships, all their stories go completely untold, even though that must have been like incredibly difficult. Like it took suicide attack for the US to pull it off. What happened in Eastern Europe or Russia, or I shouldn't say Russia at the moment, should I? What happened in Africa,
Ukraine,
or Australia. You know, what happened there? How do they bring them down? You know, what's going on? What are the English doing in the desert for some reason as well? Why are you there? Don't know why I remember. Independence Day is one of those films I watched on repeat when I was a kid. Still remember pretty much every line.
It was a monumental occasion though, wasn't it? Like it was a monumental occasion when that movie came out. Yeah, like you know what I mean. It was like the next stage of blockbuster movie making. Like you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
It was fucking awesome. Like man, one thing I really liked about this movie, like I know the ending was a bit all over the place, but like the way they kind of like, I know like the way they kind of built from get-go to like there's not too many lulls in the story, if you know what I mean. It's like the pacing was very very well done. It's like the show the fanaticism of the world that they're now living in, and like even though at the ending, like I think the problem with the ending was that they're really hoping for a franchise here, So they're like, even if the ending is a bit open-ended or it's a bit rushed, that we can rectify our mistakes in the sequel. And Brad Pitt tried for years and years and years to do that. Like, but like apart from the ending, I think the pace of the movie is actually pretty good, because like they keep the lulls to a minimum, and they're like, okay, we have him here. We need to get into the helicopter, so we need to find him a safe haven. And then it's like, okay, safe haven. Then he escapes, and then it's like, okay, what's the next thing? We need to find a family safe haven so we can tell the story. And then that's what I like about it, that they kind of deal with the ancillary issues very quickly and very well on early on in the movie, so they can actually get on with the storytelling. And that's one thing. That's why the ending, I think, is kind of,
it moves fast. The pacing
is
is quite good. Like you don't ever feel like you're well, you're not. Actually, forget how you feel. You simply aren't.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, I like when action is set up well, and I'm going to give it credit here, where the little yappy motherfucking dog goes down the to the back carriage from like first class to second to
the airplane scene.
The airplane
we
scene.
need to talk about that
like,
in general.
and she was like, come here, puppy. And the puppy went, fuck this, and ran away. And she was like, what's up with him? And then she gets jumped. And I thought it was another fucking Brad Pitt dream scene, because he kind of wakes up like that. But I didn't realize he was waking up to the sound of a real thing happening. So I thought it was a good red herring, and a red herring. Because they had done it to us earlier, and it was just a dream. And I thought, like, a red herring. I like that. I have to say, like, the action was set up great. Where they're stacking up the back. Because what else are you gonna do? And there was even people there still to save. But the fact of the matter is, he looked and he went, no, that's so far beyond critical mass. If I go back there to save the 3 people out of the 24 people, I just become a 25th zombie. That's all there is to it. Like, that's all there is to it. Yeah.
And it's just that terror of having a confined space in a sky, or in the sky, not a sky, that you can quite easily fall out of. I mean, remember, like, whether you're scared of flying or not, everyone's scared of crashing, right? So I think, that having like zombies on a plane without sounding like a Samuel Jackson film.
Oh man, I was waiting for you to say, somebody get these zombies,
motherfucking zombies.
Motherfucking
yeah. But it was honestly just, I found that bit scary as hell. I think that was almost scarier than some of the sort of like the swarming.
It had the claustrophobia, didn't it?
Because there
was
everything. It's freakier in silence as well, because you can hear the screams of people dying, which I always think is like, if you get like just the way that happens off scene sometimes is unbelievable. It's just the way that like things like that happen. You're just like, I don't want this to happen. I don't need this at all.
Oh man, like, I don't know if I've actually seen a zombie scene in an airplane before.
No,
like, you know what I mean? It's like, it was fucking very cleverly done. Because like, would you throw the grenade, or what would you have done in that scenario?
I would be looking for the nearest parachute and just quietly exiting. I'd just be, I think a grenade, I'd probably be good. But then, like, how am I going to get to the ground? You can always lock yourself with the pilots. I don't know.
I think it's a race to the cockpit, isn't it, at that stage? I love the fact that when they crash, that even though Seeger, she has her arm cut off, she's also experienced an airplane crash, and she's carrying Brad Pitt to the WHR.
She's badass. I like that scene. And it's always good to have like also just like the difference in characters. I think is quite interesting in World War Z as well. You meet a lot of different people and a lot of different kind of mindsets, which I think is maybe the closest kind of sort of homage to the book, and how shit's going down in different ways to different people. But I think it's fantastic, that scene. I want to watch it again, actually. I might just watch it today.
Fucking I did like the different tactics. That's one thing I always love about when you make a story kind of global or whatever, the different people come to different solutions for the same scenario. And like that was one of the better things about World War Z, that like you kind of got to see the different tactics. And like in the search for patient zero, Brad Pitt ends up finding the kind of the cure. And that's what I love about it, like the questions that he's looking to be answered throughout the movie by other people. A lot of the times he actually end up coming up with a solution himself from actually being through all those experiences. None of it, I would say, were the sum of all of our experiences or whatever. And like through his journey, that every single thing, if he hadn't experienced them the exact way he experienced them, he wouldn't have actually come to the conclusion.
He works it backwards. There's that great scene where he's on the plane talking to the Israeli soldier whose hand he cut off.
Yeah.
And he does like retroactively kind of work it back. And then but
she calls herself a liability, and that's how he figures it out.
That was it. But that triggered a cascade of thought,
yeah,
which I thought was actually done really well. I have to say, like, if somebody said to me, I love World War Z, I would say fine, because of course it's a really good film. If somebody said to me, I hated World War Z, I would say like fine, because I actually thought it could have been greater, and some of us are purists. But if somebody said to me specifically that I thought that the plane scene was weak, or something, I actually thought that scene was so intensely perfect.
Oh, so good.
It's him coming to terms with what he's just learned, and then it's him like, and there's always the scene I kind of laugh at. It was just like, we will soon be arriving at Cardiff Airport. We're all very lucky. I would have taken it further, and alive. We're all super lucky, alive, safe, and should relax. And not worry about what's in the cargo, and we're all going to everything's great in general, I would, but when it all goes to shit, I just thought that scene, because it has everything I say this to Vinnie, like I suffer with a lot of anxiety in my normal life, but when I'm watching a film, I love that anxiety. I love the comfort anxiety, like where I just get to sit there and vicariously. But that had everything I loved. It had claustrophobia. It had the fact that you're in a machine that if it falls out of the sky, that'll kill you, all of you. Then you had the fact that the attack was coming from behind you. You were not armed. I think like the soldier herself, I think she had like one gun,
handgun,
and there was a grenade. Obviously, we know there was a grenade. But you're fucked. I mean, even like again, he was like the best plan you had was to blow up the plane. That was your best chance of survival. That's how fucking tense that scene was.
Would you blown up the plane, Noel?
Oh yeah, it probably would have been my like just in case, like nothing's actually happening. I'd be like, just grenade into business class. Sorry, could I get another glass of champagne?
It's one way to summon an attendant.
Yeah. You know what? If it is one of the zombies, it's probably one of the commoners. Can I have a champagne and a grenade? But I thought that was phenomenal. I thought that was a 10 out of 10. I wouldn't take when a film has a scene and whatever you can take either side of it. You know, when just a film has a scene, it's like when Trinity and Neo, you know, when they take the bottom floor of the building. Isn't it just one of those most flawless scenes where you're just thinking like everything from the time he walks through the metal detector until he gets into the elevator? It's one of the most perfect scenes of cinema I've ever seen. And this scene was literally for me on that level. Of course, it wasn't as clean cut, it wasn't as well organized, but the chaos was kind of the point. So that's not a drawback for me. I just thought it was one of the best zombie scenes I've ever seen. I really do think that.
One thing I liked about it didn't slow down the action too much in World War Z. Like that's an issue I have with some of Zack Snyder's movies, that he kind of has a tendency to slow down the action. And if what's the point of making your zombies fast if you're going to show them in slow motion the whole time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, it's like I like fast-paced action. Like, it's like if you've ever been in a fight or anything in real life, you ever see real like battles or whatever, real footage, and like what always is the case is that it's frenetic or it's high pace, it's messy. It's like it's not really like poetry in motion. It's like it's craziness. It's like something Noel said in the previous podcast. Like you got two people, one person's trying to kill the other person whilst the other person's trying to kill you, like, you know, that kind of thing. So it's messy, it's going to be horrible. And I hate when they slow the action down, because when you have a swarm coming at you, you want to see what that person's experiencing in real time, how that swarm is really the threat they actually are, you know, like how they are. Because with slow zombies, you show them in real time because you want to see the slowness, the anticipation, all these things. But if it's a swarm, it's the exact opposite, but you want to see it in the exact same way, where you want to see them coming at you 100 miles an hour and like slow and stuff down like that. Zack Snyder's determined how to doing that, but World War Z, I thought, did it well, where they kept the action fast, that we actually got to see what the real threat of this zombie horde was. that they like, you know, they barrel at you 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, and there's no stopping them. Like, you know, they'll run themselves off a cliff like wild buffalo, being like scared, or, you know, or some shit. It's like they've no, as like Noel said, they've no sense of self-preservation. And because of that, they're willing to just barrel their way through and over each other. And because even the scene in Israel is a perfect example of it, where they just kind of pile up on each other until they finally breach the wall. It's like a human ladder. And then as soon as they breach the dam, you know, it's the waves and the flood come straight in and just pour over everything. As soon as one zombie comes in and affects one person, 12 seconds there, another person's getting attacked and affected, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about this, that they showed you the threat. And in like, you know what I mean, they really conveyed the nature of it.
Yeah.
How fast.
But like zombies are 10 down, but now they're 11 up.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, like the number isn't as simple. If you have like Nazis versus allies and you shoot a Nazi, that's
Boo
a Nazi
Nazis.
down. Boo Nazis, not
Pretty
afraid to
safe
say
boo.
it.
Safe boo. Pretty safe boo.
Pretty safe boo.
Pretty safe boo. Actually.
But I do think that for me, the weird thing, the thing that I to be honest with you, I'm quite uncomfortable saying that because I'm not, excuse me, genuinely not trying to make a joke, but it seemed like cancer taking over the system.
Yeah, that's,
you know,
that's
like,
the whole planet. It was a living
you know
organism.
what it was. It was
viral organism.
Exactly. And when it came over, it was like it was literally bleeding in.
Yeah.
And it was all these innocent people. And I don't mind only like it was based in Israel, where there seemed to be this kind of kumbaya moment between Palestinians and Israel, because that's what a mutual enemy kind of does. Yeah. And they sang and they danced together. And it was just really, but it literally encroached. Yeah. Like across the land, not like as a single enemy, across the land. And then it just came in and it just started to spread. And that was like so, like, as in, it literally just, for me, I remember just thinking that it was a world cancer.
Yeah.
And again, I know I've been making jokes. I'm not trying to.
That is a perfect fucking analogy, because like that's, I think it's the like, if you look at a story like The Strain, the TV series and I just finished the books and shit, that they really, really lean in on that it is a viral strain, that like you have all these things that, like, you know, it is a monster or whatever, but the way it acts, the way it interacts with its environment, the way it interacts with its victims, the way it like spreads, it actually is just a living embodiment of a virus. And if you look at like how a virus would kind of swarm your immune system, that's the way the swarm kind of interacts with its environment in World War Z, because it's like the swarm is the disease and the immune system is the world. And that's why they kind of swarm over everything, because they're just looking for new hosts. Because what does a virus do? It looks for a healthy host so it can constantly replicate itself. So it creates a new life cycle. And that's what a good virus does. It doesn't actually kill its host. It actually tries to find a way of living and coinciding with the host. Like, and it's like a weird symbiotic relationship. That's why like the likes of HIV and AIDS, when they came around, they were considered a bad virus in air quotes, if you know what I'm saying, because they actually kill the host. Same with cancer oftentimes.
There was that hate around it as well. It was the gay virus.
That's why like the common cold or flus are so prevalent, because they find a way of living with humans and constantly mutating, so they can come back, infect us, but oftentimes not kill us. And like that's what this World War Z does, is constantly replicating. That's why the swarm interacts the way it does and reacts the way it does.
2 down, 3 up.
Yeah.
Or maybe like 10 down and 1 up, as in like, but so what? Like the number is huge.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the number is huge. So even when you're making strides, like there's that great scene with the helicopter and he's got whatever, a Gatling gun, and they're absolutely shooting at the pile, but unless you're getting headshots, they basically don't stop.
Yeah.
So it was such a truly what's the word, apocalyptic, well, epic, but also apocalyptic film. I just thought it was so excellently done, like unabashed. It was not fucking around. It wasn't about surviving, and it wasn't Shaun of the Dead, and it wasn't about getting to the local and stuff again, which there's definitely room for
left.
You know, but it went huge. There were just endless aggression.
Yeah, I love the way like they have that fleet out just in the middle of the ocean, like, and shit like that. It's just like they've nowhere to go. It's just sitting there. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, that's what I loved about it. It really shows that like in that kind of scenario, when you have an enemy that's fervent, that can spread so quickly, that you really run out of safe spaces so fast. Like, and there's no offense before you can create a good defense. You know what I mean? And that's what I loved about World War Z. That it was just like it was all about survival, and then we can try to figure it out. And that's was like, let's get Jerry out here. That's what your man theory was all about. I need you, Jerry. You know, get him out here. He needs to survive so we can actually figure it out. That's kind of what the whole movie is. It's like in Contagion, where they're trying to find out the patient zero, and it's all about. That's what I love about it. It's like it has this kind of investigation kind of aspect to it, and it has the whole thing with the virus and shit, that it actually went about it, not about it as if it was a zombie movie. That was that you had this investigator trying to figure out this a virus, you know what I mean, that like it focused more on the kind of epidemiological side of things than it did about the whole horror and zombie aspect kind of thing, you know. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, no, I think so. It's very existential, and it's very it's not just like a slapdash action film, isn't it? It's just kind of like it does have I wouldn't say the most depth I've ever seen in that sort of film, but a lot more depth in general. And so that's why I think it does definitely stand out for me. I mean, remember when I saw it, it was kind of a very it always, I find if there's like a what if, and if I want to know more, if I'm kind of like not angry at the film for missing stuff out, but like, I want to see the bits that this and we're talking about, and show me more of North Korea and sort of stuff. Like it's kind of done its job a little bit. As long as there are not too many questions. And so that's why it stands out.
Would you like to have seen the sequels that Brad Pitt was trying to get off the ground? Because David Fincher was linked to Natasha the one stage. That would have been very interesting.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Fincher, and I think that would have been cool. I think it would have to be a completely different character, like whole new setup. I think it would have been good. I'm always up for it. More zombies.
How about you, Noel? Before we get the fuck out here, would you like to see a sequel to this?
Yeah, actually, I do think it earned that. I do. I would like to, like, I mean, the fact that the only thing I can really take away is that I think it avoided the more visceral side of it. Yeah, that's fine. Like, after watching the film and how well it was executed, I think that's just like a personal preference. I hate when somebody kind of dummies away from something that is quite vicious. But that's fine. I actually thought the film was well enough executed that I would have definitely liked to have seen a sequel. And I would have liked to see Brad Pitt involved, because he is a great actor. I've definitely seen films get sequels that deserve them an awful lot less than World War Z. An awful lot less. So yes, if I'm in a yes or no camp, of course I'm yes.
Yeah, I think at this stage, if we don't see a sequel, I'd like to see the rights revert back to Max Brooks, and maybe we'll see it as a TV series, because you could really do like an anthology almost, where each story you have.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, of course. It's like it's limitless. Like, why not like the Highlands of Scotland? There, anything.
Well, no, this,
you know what I mean? Anywhere.
But you don't need to diverge. That's what I'm saying. The book does everything you need. Like, the book splits it all up. It goes to all these different places. It has this constructed timeline that it shows you the different stages of the zombie outbreak, the war, the post-war, all these things. All you have to do is look at the book, get Max Brooks on as a showrunner, and just use that as your blueprint. You could even have it as an anthology, as I was saying, that every episode and the way the book is pieced up, it's perfect for that, because every episode you just have the UN investigator, like Brad Pitt's character. You have him going out and you just say, okay, tell us your story. And it could just be a person sitting down in front of a video camera or a phone or something, and you go, okay, this is my story, and then cut to, and then that's the episode. Like, it'd be so easy to do. It'd be so effective. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just him going back, deconstruct the war, deconstruct how people figured out a way of killing the zombies, and also finding out the source and the cause of the infection. And like, I think, like, there's so much in the book that you would have needed a series of movies to do. And if they don't get the series, I'd love to see Max Brooks getting the rights and maybe coming on. Like, that's why I don't understand when people write a book and they go, oh, I'm going to write it myself. Go, well, he already did it for you. You know what I mean? Like, get him on. Nobody knows these characters in this world better than this person. Like, so just get, like, I just don't, like,
I'm planning on doing this to Ben's books. I'd be like, this is, no, it's good, but like, 99 tanks, 101 tanks. You're welcome, Ben. If you even are. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just literally kind of go like, and she had her heart broke. Her species has two hearts, and they both got broke. Boom, better writer. No, that's it.
I just don't like it when they go like, oh, I love the world you built, I love your story, and I'm going to change this. And I'm just like, do you like my story, or you just like my brand?
There is a thing where it becomes intellectual property, and it's an unfortunate thing, and it's not something I necessarily agree with, but it's something that obviously exists in a legal space. Because it gets desensitized, or it gets kind of changed, and I do think it's unfortunate. Something, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's examples of it working, but it's just when the intellectual property, because that's kind of what you said, if the intellectual property reverts back,
Yeah.
that they can actually take a longer format, because it does lend itself to a longer format.
100%.
It is the end of the world. Like, it's
Yeah,
not just, it's not Shaun of the Dead.
global
It's
story as well.
not, it's
like.
not cute. It's complete and total infection on a huge scale of millions of billions. So yeah, I would love that too. I really would.
Yeah, I just think it makes so much more sense, because not only is the book like successful, it sold 2 million copies. So Max Brooks knows what the audience wants. He has like potentially 2 million readers.
But he knows, not only does he know what they want, he knows he got it right.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, makes no sense. Like, because like I just think like there's so much you could do with the world that he's created that they didn't do, that's left off the table or whatever. It's like, it's just kind of the longer form storytelling. I think we're just a bit spoiled because of all the streaming platforms we get. That a couple of years ago 3 movies would have satiated us, but now we're like, oh, give me 10 hours, you know. But like, I just think this is a world that's ripe for the picking, and I'd love to see it in the longer form, and hopefully that if the movies don't get made, that Max Brooks gets the rights back and he's involved, because, you know, he's done it right once. Why can't he do it right twice? You know what I mean? So but like, anybody else want to say anything else about World War Z? We get the fuck out here. It is the end of the world as we know it.
It's the end of the world as we know it.
Back to Independence Day.
I'm literally going to listen to that song right now. I'm sorry. It's in my head and I've had a drink.
All right, folks. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Tui.
And that was World War Z. This is Invasion of Potty Snatchers. And that was Ben Galley. Thanks, Ben. That was fucking awesome.
Thank you very much.
You get
Cheers,
the fuck
guys.
out.
Great to be here. Let's go.
Actually, Ben, before you get out here.
Yeah, before we get out here,
tell the folks where they can find you. Sorry, yeah, tell the folks where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me online pretty much everywhere, bengalley.com, or linktree/Ben Galley for all my books, website, news, Patreon, Discord, Free Kittens, Dragon Anatomy, but I don't know, whatever you want. It's all online.
Did you say Free Kittens?
Free Kittens, yeah, why not? That's my favorite bribing material.
Fucking awesome.
Guys, check him out. He's I'm a big fan of Vinnie as a writer, and Vinnie is apparently a huge fan of Ben Galley as a writer. So like the Padawan and the Master and stuff. So just please do support your local artists, that kind of shit. And Ben, you've been an absolute gent, and thanks for being there with us,
man.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks very much. See you next time, motherfuckers. Peace.
Next time.
You said peace, no?
Peaches.
Good luck.
Yo, she